Alrighty, everybody. We're here for a Friday night galley meeting. Of course, we left port without Bogue, so he will not be joining us today. It is I, your pirate captain, here for another wonderful, wonderful adventure. Hold on, man. I'm getting a little bit of double feedback. Oh, man. I am excited to be here hanging out with some of my good buddies, Loke the Bard
Hey, how's it going?
and Mr. Producer.
Hey guys.
Alrighty. Got a lot to get into tonight, but before we get through this, we're going to go ahead and do our obligatory podcast. Now, remember, the Galley episodes are every other Friday. We did do last Friday. I had some stuff I had to take care of. We will be doing one next Friday. And then every on the alternating Saturdays, we have our actual main podcast, which is Chef Bolg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything, where we talk about D&D. We started out as a D&D podcast, but we have so much pop culture stuff that we get into talking to before the scenes. I was like, why don't we just finally just break down and start talking about some extra pop culture? So that's what we do. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, follow us wherever you're getting this. If you're doing a Friday Night Galley, you're only getting it on YouTube. This content does not go over to our podcast stuff. So if you're listening to this for the first time, welcome here. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, everywhere else. It's all the same. Right there, Chef Bolg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything. A lot to get into today. The first thing I want to talk about is the big news in the movie world, which is Miss Marvel the Marvels. And I got to tell you, still, you could not have gotten me to see this movie. There is not going to be much of a way. I tell you what, we'll make it. We'll make a bet real quick. I will go see this movie. I will go see this movie if it makes more than the Flash does, and I'm talking the Ezra Miller Flash. If it makes more than that on opening weekend, I will make that deal with you.
That that's pretty. That's a pretty fair bet because it's going to be close one way or the
I,
other.
I don't think it's gonna I don't think it's gonna pass it because I think I have that pulled up here somewhere as a part of my prep.
I'm looking
Uh,
for it.
it made 101 million altogether as a total movie domestically, and I think it was like 9.6. Mr. Producer's on that one. But
Yeah,
it's already tracking worse. All right. It
Box
only makes
office was 276 million.
but that's
no,
total.
that's
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 total
the
box
total.
office.
I need
Oh,
the
What's the
opening
opening
weekend.
weekend?
sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. It only made 6.6 million. All right. Now look, I will say it time and time again that the Marvel movie franchise, it's just done. Like there's nothing to say about it that it's been done since Endgame. And the the buildup that they did and everything that they did for Endgame, and then Endgame honestly fell super short, and then everything else. I just don't know what to really talk about anymore that I haven't already said.
Well,
The
this
storylines are good on. Oh, I'm sorry. Go for it.
yeah, the audience doesn't know, but everybody here knows. I did go and see this today, so I have actually watched it. I know I won't spoil anything for those who are trying to go. Um, but this is probably the most MCU movie since Endgame because
Is
it
it?
is the most connected to other movies and other shows in the MC universe. But that's also a downside. If you did not watch Miss Marvel, don't go see this movie.
Well, that's and
If you didn't watch WandaVision, don't go see this movie.
that's the
Uh,
thing about these movies that's been super annoying
yeah,
since Endgame is the fact that if you don't watch all of it, you're not going to go. All with
yeah.
everything all the way up until Endgame, all you had to do was just watch a movie. I'll watch it once. Maybe watch it
But
again if it came out on a streaming service, but that was it.
one of the big complaints for everything since Endgame is how disconnected everything has been. Like you went in to go see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and it's like you could tell that the writers and directors had not seen WandaVision because it wasn't really connected at all to WandaVision, other than the fact she wound up with the Darkhold somehow. This is very connected
Right.
to the point where the end credits of Miss Marvel of the last episode is pretty much the opening of the Marvels movie.
Yeah, but I shouldn't
Um,
have to watch like 6 or 7
yeah,
different series to get the idea of what's going on in a movie I'm
but
watching right now. like with something with a comic, because that's not the way even comic books read.
Yeah.
Like you really should, like you're gonna have, like you would read over into another series, but you wouldn't have to go read 8 different books to figure out what's going on in your main storyline.
Yeah.
If you're reading, let's say, Wolverine comics, all right, you're just reading a bunch of Wolverine comics. You're going down the line with Wolverine, and you may venture off and read maybe what the other X-Men are doing, but it's not like going to be like this major loss. And they'll actually explain it to you a little bit in the comic about, hey,
Yeah.
look, this is what Wolverine's been up to, or
And they
vice
do a
versa.
good job for those who haven't seen it. They do a good job to catch you up. The reason I say if you haven't seen it, don't bother going, is you are not the target audience.
Okay,
This movie takes that are like the artistic approach of WandaVision, where what they did with the sitcoms and that kind of stuff, and the comedy from uh Miss Marvel, stylistic wise, and
right.
kind of blends those into a movie,
Okay, so
which is which is
here's
not the normal MCU tone, and it's not the four quadrant
right.
wide MCU thing.
If okay, who normally would go see a comic book movie?
Yeah.
Who?
The,
No, who? I'm asking you. Who?
oh yeah. Well, obviously the guys 18 to 40.
Okay,
What is it?
yeah. So,
Yeah.
we'll get to this. Mr. Producer, what do you think on that? Who normally goes to see comic book movies?
There's actually a pretty decent number of women that go and see
Okay,
Marvel
but
movies these
okay,
days.
who goes and sees comic book movies?
I'd say 16 to probably 45
Men, most
men.
likely. Yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm throwing this one out to you now because I got 2 stories right here pulled up for us. I've got the Marvels. This one is actually this is from the Wrap right here, but I want to pull the Bounding into Comics one because they have the com score thing, which breaks it down. Come on, get this out of my way. I hate this when I'm trying to
The
like do
while there's a
articles.
little break, domestically, The Flash made 55 million for a worldwide debut of 130 million.
Okay, so 55 million. If the Marvels break 55 million, I will go watch the Marvels.
That's for
Hold me to
opening
it.
weekend.
Opening weekend. It has to break
Okay.
55 million opening weekend. All right, so bounding into comics right here, because they had this com score thing that I liked. Com score, they go in and I had it pulled up and then right here.
Live broadcast.
I know, live broadcast. According to the polls conducted by audience measurement company ComScore, following various screenings obtained by Deadline, the Marvel's initial viewership made up of 63% men, 45% which were over the age of 25, and 24% women over 25. So you're still not making Marvel movies for your target audience of the people who are going to go see your movies
Yeah.
regardless. All right.
Yeah. Let's put it this way. Their target audience, if you like, I'm trying, how do I do this without spoiling things? The silliness of a planet that speaks in singing
So
and
there
has a
is the
culture
singing
of
scene.
dancing.
Yeah.
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 That's
If that doesn't break you from the which is an overall, the plot is basically the plot of Spaceballs. Um,
No, it's
it
not.
is, it
so
is,
why am
it
I not
is,
watching Spaceballs? Why am I paying? You
it
said
is
you paid
basically
$11 to go see
yeah,
this movie. Why am I not just going to? I've got Spaceballs downloaded
yeah.
on my laptop. I'll go watch that before I'll ever like. What like?
The bad guys trying to steal the environment and stuff from a planet because their planet is dying.
Oh dear
That is,
Jesus!
that is, I mean, it is great.
Oh,
It is Spaceballs.
the only thing it's missing is Mel Blanc. Talking about getting beamed.
Yeah.
Like I mean, it made 6.6 million last night.
Yeah.
That is the opening night of a Marvel movie. That's pathetic. That's done. That's worse than even Ant-Man and the latest Ant-Man.
Yeah. So that at that race, I'll make a prediction now. It's gonna do about 30 million. That's my prediction for
Do you
this
think
movie.
30 million? That's even
Yeah,
low.
well, because if it did six on a Thursday night opening, it'll do more than that tonight and tomorrow, and then it'll probably do about that again on Sunday.
Okay.
I
So
might have
that's
to go
I
see it tomorrow afternoon just
oh,
to
you
help
try,
contribute to the
yeah.
the Pirate
you
Captain
just
I
wanted to
mean,
go.
finale.
even if it did, 6 million times the 4 nights over the weekend, that's 24. So I'm only saying it's going to pick up another 6 between Friday and Saturday night. You know,
What?
that's my prediction right now. Um,
That's
but
just terrible.
yeah, but this movie is definitely the target audience, like just
I'm
like
listening.
the YouTube trends where you used to put cats
Yeah.
doing cute thing. I mean that the you've seen in the previews that there's a bunch of cats in this movie running around the
What?
spaceship. And then you got the song and dance section where they have the aliens have the magic wardrobe change power is basically what their special ability is is to magically change the wardrobe. It, you can tell who their target audience.
Oh,
This
do we just
yeah,
make Disney
this wasn't
princesses without
yes
it's a
yes
Pixar movie without Pixar? Like we're
yeah
sorry that freaking
yeah.
Elemental failed.
Captain Marvel is a Disney princess.
Oh, that's even worse. Ugh. Brie Larson's just a brat. Like, there's nothing appealing about Brie Larson. Like I'd say she's attractive, but then you hear her talk in some of her interviews, and she's just insufferable.
Well,
Like
she's cursed with the resting bitch face,
it's not even the
where
Richard Bitch face. Like
she gets
that
on.
doesn't bother me. Like that doesn't bother me. Like she's attractive. She just talks, and it's just like she's talking down to me, and I'm like,
That
why do I want to be talked down to by somebody?
yeah.
Why do I want to go to watch a movie and be like talked down to? She got like the reason Miss Marvel did so well is because of where it was
You mean
placed.
Captain Marvel?
Captain Marvel.
Miss Marvel didn't do
That's
very
right. I'm
well, which
sorry.
is
That's like how little I care about these things. But it's still a big like when it comes to pop culture, it's still huge in the news of what it is. But if you look at it, the Captain Marvel only made the money it did is because they propped it up as to be this is a very important movie. You have to watch this
well,
movie. You'll not know what's going on in
and
Endgame. And
and the
if you
connections this does, unfortunately, this does connect the other direction as well, like setup wise and stuff. And the post credit scene is huge. Like they do a lot
I
of
no, I
yeah.
already heard about it and I already know about it,
I haven't
but
heard
that's
it
not it.
yet, so
Yeah, I'm not gonna
Yeah, I
ruin
don't
it.
want to. I don't want to spoil it for anybody out there yet, but it is. It is very Marvel-esque as far as connecting to future stuff.
does it set up? Does it help tie together the next phase at all?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but that's not enough to get me excited. Like I'm
right.
like the Endgame series isn't there, but the whole like Captain Marvel movie only did well, and Brie Larson only did well because of where they put her in that movie. Because if you took her parts out of not only if you took that movie out of the whole thing and then you took it out of Endgame,
Yeah,
you'd still have like 98% of Endgame.
yeah,
Like that's the truth
and
about it. So you
and it's
picked a
kind of a shame
character
for
that
this movie too, because Miss Marvel, what's her name? Yvonne Milani, I believe is how you say her
yeah.
name. She steals this movie. She is the best
Yeah.
part about this movie.
That's what a lot of
Uh,
people that's what a lot of the reviewers are saying. Like
yeah,
that she's the
because
one that does it.
yeah, and this this is almost like they were trying to make the Powerpuff Girls without the
Yeah.
sarcasm.
But I don't even want
Where they just the cuteness and just the girly stuff, but without the biting sarcasm that the Powerpuff Girls cartoon actually had. That's kind of it's like let's do this gently. It's
yeah.
kind of what
That's
this
that's
movie is.
exactly what I don't need is the Powerpuff. If I want to go see
Yeah,
the Powerpuff Girls, like go watch the Powerpuff Girls. I don't
yeah.
like that's the thing is why copy these other movies and stuff like this? Like when I want to watch a movie about something, like if I don't want to go in and see a remake. I really don't like reboots. Like
No.
there's nothing that ever needs to really be rebooted. They're talking about rebooting Back to the Future, and I'm going to tell you, I will shit on a director's fucking doorstep on that one. Like
Well, yeah.
that one just needs to be left alone. You cannot ruin what I have left of my childhood.
Well, several people have to die before they'll do that.
Yeah, that's probably going to be me. You don't
No,
want
no.
to.
I mean, like the original directors, producers, and probably Michael J. Fox all have rights and stuff that they're like, no, they're
No,
not
they've
going to
already.
allow that.
Yeah, I just like
I'm sure the studios would love to do it if they could.
I mean, the studios would love to do a lot of things. They were
Yeah.
almost free of some of these stupid actors. Like I just I want Marvel movies to be good. I love
Yeah.
superhero
I
movies.
think I think what happened was Guardians of the Galaxy did really well with its silly direction, and then Thor 3 came out and it did even better with its silly direction.
I didn't like the silly
They just overreached with the silliness
They
when
kept going sillier and they kept going sillier and as
yeah.
it succeeded, and now they've
But it
gotten
didn't even
past.
need to succeed though, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like Thor, like people had their issues with Dark World, but like it wasn't bad. And I think some heroes need to have a serious tone to it.
I don't
Like
know,
even
but I,
Thor 1 was
I
funny.
would say Dark World was pretty bad.
I don't remember it enough. Like it honestly had no impact on the whole universe. Like you could have done without Dark World and still had a
Yes,
fine universe.
you could have,
And
but
that's my argument on that one.
yeah.
So like
Other than Loki dying and then having to resurrect him again, because they do that quite
I'm,
often
I'm
in
getting tired of that.
is it
Getting tired of
the
that.
fake death universe? Which
I
there were stories this week about them bringing back Robert Downey Jr. and
Yeah,
a couple
that one. I
others.
think that they already squashed that. I think Kevin Feige already came out and said no, we were never doing that. Like that's just a bad leak.
Yeah,
Um, but like I want my superhero movies to be good. I
yeah.
really, really do. And like they're not making superhero movies to be good. They're here to either teach
Well,
us a lesson or they're not making it for like the people who want to go actually see superhero movies.
and I think with something like the MCU, you do need an occasional reboot. Well, you
Yeah.
don't you
Yeah,
don't
no.
you don't have to actually even call it a reboot, where it's a an end to the current MCU and the start of a new MCU, where it's
Yeah.
new because
It would be like
right now
comics.
the baggage from like all what is it 30 I can't remember off the top the 30 movies worth of baggage. The world of the MCU right now is so different from our own world, and it keeps going further and further off from our because their timeline is different, their technology is different. They're so advanced, like they've got spaceships in this movie as a regular thing on Earth
No,
right
well,
now.
hmm,
You know,
that's I don't think that's I mean that's not a big deal. Like superhero movies are supposed to be like they're superheroes. They're already doing
yeah,
things that we can't do as humans, and that's like the kind of idea of seeing this.
right.
That's
But
not gonna that doesn't affect me. I like what affects me is bad storytelling because that's a lot of what this is just really really bad storytelling. Um, Bad choice of characters. Like we're just picking characters that no one really cares about. You have a couple Twitter stands on X or Twitter or wherever you want to call it now that are like, "Oh my god, these are our favorite characters." And Disney was like, "Okay, let's make something about it." And then when nobody showed up, they're like, "Well, this is your fault. This is your fault you didn't show up." And nobody's like, "Well, we actually didn't want that. Nobody
well,
like Echo.
yeah.
Nobody wanted Echo, and you're not even making Echo."
I wasn't Guardians of the Galaxy kind of an obscure group of characters before the
Well,
Iron
MCU?
Man was an obscure character.
yeah, because Marvel had sold off all of the good characters.
I mean, I would
Spider-Man, the Hulk,
the
uh,
Spider-Man, the Hulk, I would say that.
all of the
Fantastic
X-Men,
Four,
the Fantastic
X-Men.
Four.
But Iron Man was like I knew who Iron Man
Yeah,
was, and I always enjoyed Iron Man. And he was like one of my more favorite characters. He wasn't my absolute favorite. I was a big Spider-Man fan growing up. I mean, most kids are because it's Spider-Man. But once I kind of like started reading through some Iron Man stuff, I was like, bro, this is like a great character. I liked him. All
yeah.
right. And but they pick some of these random ass characters, these new characters, because like, oh well, the old people don't want to read these old. We want to get that new audience, but most people are buying back issues of comics. They're not even
Yeah.
buying new comics. That's why you see so many stories about comic shops. Like the oldest comic book shop in LA has already went out of business, and for a plethora of reasons. But the
Yeah.
big one is like no one's buying comics. No one's buying the new comics anymore. They want either the back issues, which you can get in a lot of places, or they just want that. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like that's the comic books that people want. Like the heroes they want.
Well,
And I
I personally, maybe I'm the odd one out here. Maybe I'm in the minority. to me, it doesn't matter which character. It's going to be the stories they're telling with those characters.
I think it does matter a little bit about the character because you pick some of these BS characters that don't mean anything, that just
But
don't have anything that they add to the story, or the
that's
fact
just
that
it.
they're
If the
just like a,
story's good, though,
but it's not even a good story because it's a story that's either already been told. You know what was one of the greatest parts about the new when they redid the Spider-Man movies for the MCU was the fact that we didn't go back in and tell Uncle Ben's storyline for the 6,000th time.
yeah.
That
Well, when
we
you're doing
already
the same character,
knew.
because you've already done Spider-Man 6,000 times. When you pull up a new Joe Hero who nobody's ever heard of, if you're doing his whatever Uncle Ben part is,
Okay,
nobody knows that, and you got to include that the first time.
so they did that. They called it Miles Morales, and granted, Into the Spider-Verse,
But
I like the artwork of it, but that's exactly what you're saying. Here, we could just throw it in here and give him his
but
Uncle
that's
Ben.
that's not what I no. I'm not saying take an existing character and tweak him. I'm saying if you come up with a brand new superhero, Joe superhero, Jane superhero, whatever you want to call him, you know,
I am
Octopus
James
Man.
Superhero, and I am exactly like every other goddamn superhero.
Well,
That's the
that's just
truth of
it.
it.
Yeah,
That's the truth of it. Because it's not that it's hard to create new characters. There's new characters.
yeah,
They're in what's called the Iron Age of comics right now, where indie comics are on the rise
yeah.
from indie creators. All
Because
right.
they're telling better stories.
It's not even so much they're telling better stories, they're doing better heroes. All right.
Yeah,
They're not carbon copies. We're not getting, color race swapped Spider-Man and Iron Man and all these other people, because it's just a slap into the face.
yeah,
Not only like they're already reshooting the new Captain America, where they were having the Falcon take over the mantle, which is
mhm,
first off racist, if you ask me. It's going to be stick with me here on this one. You're telling me you weren't good enough as your own original superhero that had his own story and his own things, that you had to be some white guy, and that makes you good enough now? Kind of racist, if you ask me.
yeah.
Okay,
I'm
It,
yeah.
pushing this.
yeah.
I'm just,
Well, we'll
I'm
let the
just,
captain burn on this hill alone.
I'm just saying that's the truth of it. You took the Falcon was already a better hero, and he had his great stories, especially like the team up with him and Cap during the Civil War and all those, really good. And his own
Yeah,
comic book line was really good. That was an amazing comic book where everybody running out there? No, because you had like Black Panther, you had Luke Cage. I like Luke Cage a lot better than I like both Black Panther and the Falcon, and they did him really dirty in the Netflix series.
yeah.
But you have these original characters and stuff like that, instead of just like, oh, we're just gonna like take this character. How many fucking Spider-Man do we have right now? We have 1,000 different Spider-Man. So now whenever somebody actually does become Spider-Man, it's just not worth being Spider-Man anymore, because you look to
Yeah.
your left and you go, oh well, now I'm just like him, or now I'm
I'm
just
not I'm
like
not a
that
fan
one.
of the passing the mantle style, uh, where when Steve Rogers dies, Joe Schmo picks up his shield and now he's Captain America. No, he would be, Lieutenant America or something,
I don't
somebody
even want to
else.
do like I don't. Well, I
He's a
mean,
new character. He's not. I don't believe in picking up the mantle for
I
anybody, regardless of
okay.
what that person was before.
I'll say one, and we'll see how if you still feel
Mhm.
the same way about this, because I saw this on Twitter and it was kind of going viral because they were using this because there was this chick that made this video that just said Miles Morales is Miles Morales, which is
Yeah,
true. Like that's the truth of it. He's not Spider Man. He's Miles
yeah.
Morales. But what if I told you Terry McGinnis from Batman Beyond? That is
Very,
probably the most successful
but he's not
version.
Batman. He's Batman Beyond.
Yeah, but he's still Batman. Batman Beyond's the name of the trailer of the series, and not like people still know him as Batman. He had his own rogues gallery,
Hmm.
so it wasn't like he was just picking up. Like now, granted, some of them were a little bit like Joker ripoffs and stuff
Yeah,
like that. But he had his own rogues gallery, his own story, his own lessons he had to learn in life, things he had to do without Bruce
yeah.
Wayne's help. That was like the most successful version of what I would say handing a mantle off
I'm
is.
okay with Batman Beyond. I am not okay with Dick Grayson taking up the mantle of
No, no, no,
Batman.
no, no, no. Dick Grayson was his own. He needed to be his own guy.
Exactly.
He
That's my
absolutely
point.
needed to be his own guy.
The Batman
And
Beyond Batman is his own separate thing. Whereas that's what I'm against. I'm against other people picking up the mantle of an existing character. I
right,
don't like I don't want Falcon picking up the Captain America mantle. I don't want Miles picking up the Spider-Man
right.
mantle. Give him a new name. He's a new character, new superhero name. It's not hard to give him a new superhero name. You know,
There's so many there's so many different legends about spiders and stuff like that
yeah,
throughout there. But the worst part is like Miles Morales has Peter Parker's same rogues, all the same bad guys and stuff like that. Like there's nothing different about him. But if you
no,
want to create new stories, there's like they tell you out there like when you're doing like any creative writing class that no there's no such thing as an original story anymore. That's always they've all been told. Now
yeah.
you're kind
There's
of
something
telling
like
it in your way.
there's only five stories. Or, at the root of all stories, there's only five stories, or something like that. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
And so that I understand. So it's going to be hard, but you if you take back and like I said, go to the indie comic scene right now. The Iron Age of comics is funny. You have so many different creators out there right now that are actually creating new and wonderful even some old creators, even some old comic book pros that are coming through the industry because Marvel and DC have let them down. That's the worst part. That's like I would feel let down by some of the stuff that these guys have done to these guys where they've shunned them from the industry because they just didn't want to play ball with this new era of what we think people want. And it's not what people want at all. And clearly you can see because Marvel and DC are such in the trash, but indie comics are on the rise right now. Like it's pretty awesome to see. I mean, look at our friends over at Dark Horse Gaming. All right, that's a pretty like they're making enough money that they get to tour around and draw comic books and play D&D. Like that shows you that people want comic books, people enjoy that medium, but if you're not giving them a story that anybody wants, then why are you even here? Right? Like why are you doing this? And this goes to the movies. Right? Now, at
well,
least
and
go for it.
the cost of making a movie like Captain Marvel or Miss Marvel or the Marvels, get it right.
Yeah.
The costs right now are so ridiculously high that in order to make that make sense budget wise, you need to make a four quadrant movie. You need to make one that's going to have as wide of an audience as possible.
Less is more.
Yeah.
Less is more. All right, we have got to get away. And you know what? I'm gonna jump around. I wanted to go into Ryan Reynolds picking the best person for Flash. I want to get into that still because we're talking
Yeah.
about Marvel, but I want to tease this real quick because when I say less is more, they released the trailer for Ghostbusters 2, and I want y'all to we'll react to that here towards the end of the Galley episode. But what my biggest complaint is the fact that they're trying to do more with more instead of less with more, like they did in the
Yeah.
last one with Afterlife. So we have Frozen Empire. We're going to be reacting to that coming up here on today's episode, but I do want to get back to this because I stop trying to do. You know what was great about like the first like era of the CW Arrowverse series is it was cheap,
Yeah.
cheap to the most part. Like there wasn't a whole lot of special effects. They had to do a lot with very little, and it worked out really well. From whether you liked them, I liked the first few series of them. They were really good, and then they really jumped the shark, especially when they killed off the Arrowverse. Like they killed off Stephen Amell and as damn, I'm drawing a
Arrow.
brain for it.
Arrow.
Well, no,
Green
what's his
Arrow.
Green? Well, yeah, Green Arrow, but
Yeah.
what's his name? Son of a, I'm just brain
Oliver
fart, man.
Queen.
Oliver Queen, thank you. I'm just having like a brain fart. But you want to know one of my favorite parts of the Arrowverse? Not only just Oliver Queen, I did like the brooding Oliver Queen thing was kind of like annoying because it's like Batman's thing. Like Oliver Queen, I always remember was more like jovial and stuff like that. He still had that same sense of justice as Batman did, but he had a sense of humor. But one of my
Yeah.
favorite parts of the CW Arrowverse was Grant Gustin.
Mhm.
All right, to me, he was like the perfect Barry Allen Flash, like the perfect, and he should have been the first pick over Ezra Miller And that's actually how they could have tied like the DC universe in with the Arrowverse and everything, and kind of like kept everything together, kind of like how the Agents of Shield did with the MCU and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not the only one that thinks that Ezra Miller was not the right person to pick as Flash. Ryan Reynolds actually picked Grant Gustin to be the Flash. It said Ryan Reynolds and Grant Gustin, Gustin appeared to have been playing an MNTN, one of Ryan Reynolds' new companies, Seymour Roast, but in typical meta fashion, Reynolds continued to use keywords to imply that he was the Flash. The commercial ends with Reynolds declaring, "You always be my Barry," with Roast responding, "You'll be my Hal." So they're kind of like poking fun at each other, but he's come out to say that like he likes Barry better than Ezra. But
Yeah, well,
that.
better than Ezra.
But everybody knows that Ryan Reynolds was never meant to be the Green Lantern. I really wish they would have gone with the John Stewart's Green Lantern versus Hal Jordan. Nothing against Hal Jordan. I think Hal Jordan's a great Green Lantern, but I think John Stewart's like my favorite, and I think it's just mainly because he's a Marine.
Well, and we were talking about passing titles, and the Green Lantern title, because it is the Lantern Corps, not an individual.
Yeah,
I'm okay with them having more than one Green Lanterns.
yeah.
They are an exception because that is the way it is not. It is not just, oh, I've become this person and I'm so iconic. Now
You get to
we
keep
can't
your
live without that person anymore. Yeah.
you get to keep your own personality and be your own person essentially when you're a Green Lantern versus like when you're a Batman, you
Yeah.
have to be Batman. Like you have to be the brooding knight sitting up on the hill looking down over the city. But you have like very many different versions of the Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, Kilowog, uh, John Stewart, Hal Jordan, all these different guys that are like they're their own person outside of being a Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Like they're mantle, like, and everybody kind of knows it. That's one thing I like about the superheroes who don't have like secret identities. I understand that, and it's still a cool part, but they get to kind of, they don't have to hide and be like, oh my God, look, it's Iron Man, and act differently. They get to be who they are. Like Tony Stark walks around acting like Tony Stark because, okay, everybody knows I'm Iron Man. Versus you
Right.
don't get that same thing with Batman. Bruce Wayne and Batman are two different sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
But
Which is something a lot of the movie versions don't get right, is they have Bruce Wayne still acting like Batman. It's like, yeah,
yeah,
who wouldn't know that that's the guy with all the millions of dollars who does
it
nothing
does.
but study martial arts in
Yeah.
his spare
Why do you have a
time.
Taekwondo dojo in your mansion? Well, it just they came in and said, "Hey, look, we got to do something with this
Yeah,
extra wood. Might as well just throw it in here. It's Taekwondo dojo."
all those batarangs and stuff have the Wayne Enterprises logo on them.
That's the worst part. Like, how did Lucius Fox get away without having like?
Well, there was a spoof show, which was supposed to be the smaller
I've seen
people
the.
of like Gotham. I can't remember what the name of the show was.
I've seen it. It's like in the Bad Batman series.
Yeah,
And
but it was one that was the whole big joke about it was like everybody knew Bruce Wayne was Batman. He was like, look, this
I'm
guy
not
he employs half the town. Are you
I'm
gonna
not
really
Bruce
risk
Wayne.
getting fired by exposing the fact that he's Batman?
I'm not Bruce Wayne, but I heard he was really cool and really rich. Hold on. And really rich. I'm Bruce Wayne. I'm Batman. I'm Batman. I meant that. Oh man. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Planet
but unfortunately,
I'm Batman.
the show is hilarious, but it didn't I don't think it even made it for a full season. I
No,
think
it
it was
was
like
it was
six
it was a
episodes.
skit. It was skits from
Pete Holmes skit.
Yeah, it was a Pete Holmes skit. That's what it was.
Yeah.
As it comes from like everybody like Bad Batman, like Batman gets stabbed is my favorite. Which one of her last words were spit in my mouth. It's just like one of my favorite, and anybody in the army who you tell that to is like one of the craziest things. Like it's a good time, but
Yeah, no,
I just want to go on a record. Like Grant Gustin is still the best pick for all of like DC, but like
well,
Marvel.
comparing him to Ezra Miller, who was terrible. It's easy to be the
What
best.
part of Ezra Miller was terrible? I'm gonna get in charge.
Well-
I'm gonna get in trouble for calling out the fact that
No.
the Falcon taking over Captain America's mantle is actually
Well,
racist,
no,
but you get
I'm
away
not
to
talking.
say,
I don't mean his terrible person stuff.
oh, he's
That's
a terrible
terrible too.
person. Let's
He
just
isn't.
go ahead.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. He's that too. But that's not what I meant. I meant he was terrible as the Flash. Uh, he was too. What's the word? Spasmic.
Yeah,
He
I will go with Spaz. Let's just go with that. He's
Yeah.
just a weirdo, man. Like
yeah.
he didn't do anything to try. I haven't even seen the new Flash movie. I saw all the trailers and the scenes that he was in, and like him talking to himself was terrible.
Yeah.
Like I can't get over this stuff. I would still rather see anything that the DCU is putting out before I'd see another Marvel movie.
Well, good thing because the only other movie left this year is Aquaman.
Ah. And I'd honestly would rather see that one. And I think I saw some guys talking about it on YouTube, and I think they had the best. They had the best talk about it. It was like it's like going to be like a buddy cop movie, and that kind of annoys me a little bit because I'm like, I don't really want to see a buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
I would rather.
The preview does hint that way.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah, I don't know.
Aquaman part of the new James Gunn?
No.
No.
Well,
Is there a point?
This Aquaman movie is not part of the new James Gunn movie. Whether there is an Aquaman in the new James Gunn remains to be seen.
I don't even know, like, because what the Blue
But
Beetle
it will not be this Aquaman.
Aquaman's supposed to be like
This
a goofy
Blue Beetle
character, right?
actor will be the Blue Beetle in James Gunn's. This Blue Beetle movie is not part of James Gunn's.
Alrighty, James
Okay.
Gunn's got like this is
Nothing
Everybody's-
that's come out is James Gunn.
everything that's got everything. Everybody's worried about James Gunn, and for good reason. For good reason. Like it's James Gunn, I understand why, because some of his stuff is like it's either hit or miss.
Yeah.
And he has a chance to kind of fix this, but he said some things in the past that just kind of has me worried that he's just going to go too creative liberty with it. And I would like to see him because I think he's going to pull the DCU from being dark and broody to actually making more comic accurate characters, but at the same time, he said some things that would ruins my belief that he's going to make comic accurate characters.
I think
Because
I think Peacemaker shows you where DCU's going to go. Because
yeah,
a lot of that's still going to Peacemaker season 2 will be part of the new DCU.
There's no need for
Peacemaker
that.
2 will be part of the
Yeah.
new
There's
That's what he
no
said.
need for that though. Like the Peacemaker isn't like when I'm thinking of like DC characters, I want to see the Trinity, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. All right, and we're losing time on Gal Gadot to be Wonder Woman. Sorry, that's the
She's
only
not
Wonder
gonna
Woman, and that's stupid. She is like the perfect like Wonder Woman. Like,
But she's a
just awesome.
terrible actress too.
She was a really good Wonder Woman.
She's really hot.
Okay, I don't. Your point.
And
I'm missing the
yeah.
concepts here. Alrighty.
she looked good as Wonder Woman, but she didn't do a good job acting as Wonder Woman.
I think she did a great job. I don't care. It's my favorite scene is when she's walking away from you on the battlefield.
Yeah. Exactly.
So Superman Legacy is going to be the first.
Yeah, Superman nothing well, was it Creature Commandos?
Yeah, what's
Cartoon
that?
that's an animated cartoon that I believe actually comes out before Superman. And it's like a monster Suicide Squad but it's got
we don't need that. We need
Yeah.
we need the Trinity. Batman,
Yeah.
Superman.
and
Wonder
that's
Woman.
the first movie will be Superman Legacy.
Okay, so like that. But I don't want Superman in the same way that we saw Zack Snyder's Superman, where it was all like Martha. I don't need that.
No, but it's also going to be, from the sounds of it, it's going to be more of a super world, lots of metahumans
I mean, but there is a
from
lot of
day
meta.
one. Yeah,
There's a lot of metahumans in the DC universe.
Right.
Like that, it's not uncommon versus I wouldn't say Marvel's that way either. I mean,
Yeah.
you have the X-Men, but you have like it's really weird, and I always hated this about Marvel. Like you had X-Men
but
who were
there's always
okay
that
or who weren't
line.
okay, but everybody else was, and you're like, oh well, are you a mutant? You're like, no, you're not a mutant.
But this
But
goes
you
back to my talking about, sometimes you need to get that reboot to clear out the history, to bring it back closer to our own universe.
but we
Because
don't. Yeah,
you
but we
get that, like,
don't.
look at things like She-Hulk,
Let's
where,
not look at She-Hulk.
yeah, which you have all these silly things in the
No,
background that just ruin the universe entirely.
it's okay. She-Hulk
Yeah,
ruined the universe. It's okay
yeah,
for you to say that. Like it
that's
was
what
a
I'm saying.
terrible.
You eventually get to the point where you have so much super.
If you're restarting this universe, you have to set you want to set the world right at the
Yeah,
start. You want to set them like, hey, look, I'm the OG. I'm Everybody knows that Superman is my issue with Superman, that he's the OG. Like nobody beats Superman. That's the idea behind Superman. He could do it all. He's that kind of hero. But there are people like that, give him a run for his money. But at the end of the day, Superman's gonna win. All right. But you know that there are other people out there with powers. Like you know about the Flash, and you know about the Lantern Corps, and you know about the Martian Manhunter, and all these different people that are in the DC universe. But you don't always run into them. You got
yeah,
Metropolis, because I don't want Metropolis to be like New York. I want Metropolis to be its own Metropolis, where it's this kind of like
yeah,
beacon city of all of like where all the great things are in the world of the DCU. Versus you go over to like Gotham, and it's like, well, this is where like two rats are fucking, and that's what Gotham is.
yeah. But
So
from the way I've seen it, and we don't know anything for sure until we haven't seen a single trailer, we haven't seen a single, script treatment. All we have is a couple app formerly known as Twitter posts from James Gunn is all
yeah,
we really have to go off of. So it could be totally off base here. But it sounded like it's going to be, in this world where there's thousands and thousands of superheroes walking down the streets, you know, Clark Kent coming up as a young Superman in that world, where they have big organizations, kind
yeah.
of, kind of more like a DC Boys is kind of what I'm thinking he's
Um,
shooting
I
towards.
don't think so. I think that it's gonna. I hope not. I hope not.
Not, I don't mean in the fact that like there's a company controlling them and that kind of realistic point. I meant just the volume of superheroes where they're everywhere. You see them. They have fan clubs.
I don't want this to get seem like I'm like tired of superheroes, but I'd
Yeah,
like to see like non-superhero movies again. And I don't want to see fucking Fast 10
yeah.
at all. I'm tired of the Fast and Furious movie series. How many times can family save the day?
No,
Every time.
Yeah, dude, Jesus, that's getting bad. But I do want to talk about this. Like, I love the Ghostbusters franchise. One of my favorite movie franchises of all the way. And no, the 2016 Ghostbusters is not a real Ghostbusters. Sorry to the ladies, and it's nothing against them. They tried doing more with less, and it failed miserably. Leslie Jones thinks she's better on SNL. Loved her in SNL. Melissa McCarthy, Mike and Molly all day long. Great actors. They had Chris Hemsworth in it too.
yeah,
Just terrible writing, terrible movie. Should not have been made. Dan Aykroyd's come out and said that they tried doing too much. They tried doing too much with not enough money, and so when they redid Afterlife, which was the last one, was really good, really good. Not amazing. Had some issues with it here and there, but nothing. But it was still a really good. Okay, if like it's amazing, great, good, poor, Dirty Dog Dick, shit-tastic. Dirty Dog Dick and then shit-tastic. Not too
I
compounded.
was looking for it on streaming, but I couldn't find it.
Which
The
the
Afterlife.
Afterlife, that one's good. That one you
yeah.
got to watch with a Ghostbusters fan. Like when I took my girl to go see that movie, I told her walking into that movie, I was like, this movie's not for you. This movie's for me. Like
Yeah,
I'm here to watch this movie. You get to be a part of my experience in watching this movie,
Such a cocky one.
you
bro.
youngins, you
Bro,
youngins. It wasn't even for you.
yeah,
It
no,
was for me.
Pack Sand. Because when I walked into that movie, I
Did
knew,
you watch the Ghostbusters Saturday morning cartoon as a kid?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, Pack Sand, bud,
Which
got you on
one?
the
the real Ghostbusters or the Ghostbusters that were the movie character Ghostbusters?
The Ghostbusters is a movie character, which was
Yeah,
the real
'cause I watched
Ghostbusters.
both.
Yeah, okay, well, that doesn't make you a better fan. But
No,
so when
Grandpa, it's
I
coming
took
up on your bedtime.
I took her to he needs to go take a Cialis or something. I don't know. So when I took her to that movie, we sat there and like I was like explaining all the references that I could find, and I found all of them. Like I saw somebody had made a list of like all the references, and I was so proud of myself that I found every reference all the way down.
Yeah.
And I was super stoked with that. Like that was like my biggest accomplishment watching that movie was like, oh, that and that and that. And this is important because this is where this happened. And this is I hit them all. But they released a new trailer this week and I hate it. I
Yeah,
hate what they're getting ready to do with this. Let's watch it and I will
I thought it
explain
looked
why.
good.
Oh,
Okay. I think it's okay.
did you watch the original Ghostbusters?
He did not. He did not.
Yeah.
Apparently.
The
Apparently. With
How
Gozer,
about Ghostbusters 2?
Vigo the Carpe. Oh, before we even get into this,
it's
there was
been
a
long
story.
time since I've seen Ghostbusters.
There was a
2.
story about green slime coming out of the streets in New York, and people were like, "I wonder what's causing this." And I saw as many people posting that on Twitter. I went down underneath them and started posting gifs of Vigo the Carpathian. Oh, all right. So let's watch this trailer. I'm going to tell you what I hate about this. All right. You have to get past this, otherwise I'll mute our stream. So they're back in New York. Obviously, this is like Coney Island, and you see the storm coming through. Really like this idea, this concept. We're about to get to the part that I hate, not the old people sunbathing. Ready for it, ready for it. See all this CGI, all this fucking special effects. They're all back.
And all those spiky, sharp icicle things popping up all over the place. Nobody getting stabbed.
No, people die. They've already said that people die in this.
But you don't see anybody getting stabbed.
It's the trailer. So
well, it's also going to be PG or PG-13. They're not going to do an R-rated Ghostbusters.
You shouldn't do a R-rated Ghostbusters.
Right.
What?
So you shouldn't have that spiky icicles as your main threat if you're not going to. You don't show it if you're not going to use it.
I like where they're going with this theme, though. I really do. What I don't like is like already look at this. You see all these special effects and stuff like that. This isn't even that bad. Like I could get over this. But when you did Afterlife, they did it with practical effects. Like more, they did some special effects, like the first one did, like the first two did, but it was mostly practical effects, and that's what I love so much about Afterlife.
Yeah, but my point is, with the cold, what was that movie where they did? Was it Day After Tomorrow?
Day After Tomorrow. Okay, so I got the same vibe from that too. I was like, okay, we've seen this.
They know Hollywood can do that cold effect in a way that's creepy, that you feel the risk without those stupid icicles.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. That's actually a really good point. I didn't think about that. But look, see all of this? And now, granted, here they go. They got the member berries in here. Remember the firehouse? And you get the Ecto-1. Loving it.
For the first time in New York history,
okay,
people froze to death in the middle of July.
I'm trying to get to the part. All right, so here's where a lot of people are having issues. They got Camille Malanjani in here, and then
the death chill.
Dan Aykroyd.
The power to kill by fear itself.
Hudson.
Your veins turn to rivers of ice.
Dan Aykroyd.
Your bones crack.
Bill Murray. Oh, they got all the OGs. Patton Oswalt. I was wondering where he was at in this one. I already knew he was going to be coming back into this movie. Like that was a big thing. Like I already knew. Patton Oswalt is a nerd. He really is. He is by definition like a super nerd. He loves like My Little Pony. He's a Magic the Gathering guy, D&D, all this stuff. He is a super nerd. The issue with Patton Oswalt though is Patton Oswalt likes to modernize a content to meet that modern audience, and it ruins things. And that's what has me worried about this one.
Yeah. I'm more worried about that this commercial doesn't feel like a Ghostbusters movie.
We'll get to that once we get to the end of it because we're almost done out of this one. But I just wanted to stop that because like those are the two big like complaints that I've heard from a lot of people are Camille Johnny and Patton Oswalt. Not really a big factor for why I don't like this one though.
Is your own tear ducts freezing up?
Like, literally scared to death? So cool.
He said he was or something. I don't like that we don't get to hear any of Murray's lines or. Try to Paul Rudd.
Did you see anything funny in that trailer?
Not
Anything
really.
at all?
Not really. Like, and that's and I'm
First
with
and
you on
foremost, Ghostbusters is a comedy. First
that.
and foremost,
It's comedy / horror, and even they have said that. Like Dan Aykroyd and them have said that. Like it's comedy
Well,
/ horror.
yeah, but so it's like Dale and Tucker versus Evil, but it's still funny. That's the point. It's got to be funny.
But that one doesn't bother me so much because like even in the original or even in Afterlife, like their trailer didn't even show like a whole lot of funny in there either, but it was still a really good one. But we still don't have Rick Moranis. He's not coming back. Unfortunately, obviously Harold Ramis is not going to be in there. Ernie Hudson's still there as Winston Zeddemore, and didn't get to hear a whole lot from him or Bill Murray in the trailer. Like Dan
And
Aykroyd was cool, and I didn't like the fact that we kind of like focused too much on Patton Oswalt and Camille Johnny. We had like more scenes of those two than we did of Paul Rudd, who would be like a really good replacement for like if you were to do like Ghostbusters but older people. I would pick Paul Rudd to play honestly a Dan Aykroyd type. He would definitely be a Ray Stantz. Like if I had to say that anybody, Paul Rudd would be a really good Ray Stantz, like a Ray Stantz like copy or some sort.
yeah, and his character in the first movie is kind of that way as well.
Yeah.
But
He's that
and that's
goofy
the other
professor.
thing. If this is a sequel to Afterlife, and they already did the member berries, bring back the original Ghostbusters, even did the CGI of ghostly what was his character? I'm blanking on his name. The one that passed away that was the
Harold
director,
Ramis,
writer.
he was
Yeah,
Egon
yeah.
Spengler.
What was Egon? That was it. I can't believe I was blanking on Egon.
I know.
But yeah,
man.
they even brought back the ghostly Egon. Okay, that's done. Now it's the new Cruise movie. Even if they could be in the movie for a cameo, they don't need to be in the trailer.
I mean, they're like, yeah. I like the fact that that they're bringing Walter Peck back in. They're bringing William Atherton back as Walter Peck, but you focus more on the people that hopefully aren't that important.
Yeah.
Patton Oswalt and Camille Johnny. Or Nan and Johnny. I keep saying Johnny. Nan and Johnny. He's actually like I like his stand up. His stand up cracks me up, and he did a really good thing with Dan Harmon for Harmon Quest. But I think we're just like we're getting away from it too. My biggest complaints. I know it was the actors who are in there. A lot of people don't have issues with Camille and Nanny Johnny and Patton Oswalt. They don't like the name Cold Empire because it doesn't make any sense. But we only have like that first teaser trailer to figure out why they're calling it Cold Empire, even though he explains it's like, oh, it's the breath of death, or it's like the chill of death, or the fear, the sum of your fears right here. And that's what it is. But
yeah, well, it's frozen New York, and New York has the Empire State Building, so frozen Empire.
Yeah, maybe that's probably where it is too. But I don't.
Yeah.
The name doesn't bother me. Like I said, I just seeing all the special effects in it. It got away.
I really don't like the special effects.
I don't want that. Like in Afterlife was really good. And I made this because people were asking about it, and I was tweeting back out them on my personal Twitter. And I actually got I got a couple of people that actually like the people like Brent Dasovic from Pop Culture Crisis liked my tweet when I was like, hey man, I could care less about half this other stuff. But the fact is when you're watching this trailer come in, you see all these special effects, and that's just not what this was about during
Yeah.
Afterlife. They did less with more, and it was so
Well, and
great.
that's not what it was about the originals either. I mean, some of the it was pre-CGI, so it was all practical effects back then.
I mean, they did have some kind of like special effects in there
Yeah.
of with like the laser, with the proton packs and stuff like that, but
Right, but that wasn't the basis of what made the show great. What made the show great was the writing and the humor and the,
yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, Harold Ramis, Rick Moranis, and Dan Aykroyd were brilliant together,
yeah,
absolutely brilliant. And then you bring in a star-studded cast
yeah,
of having Bill Murray in there, who they all
yeah.
like just
Sigourney
gel with.
Weaver and yeah,
Sigourney Weaver, and she's not listed on the actors for this one. So I was saying Sigourney Weaver in the trailer because my mind was like clicking there for some reason. But that's actually Carrie Coon, not Sigourney Weaver. I've really got to. I can't do one of these shows and like not be on little sleep. Annie Potts is supposed to be in there too. The kids, like I said, I didn't mind the kids in the last one.
yeah.
I wish Afterlife would have had more like actual like ghost busting like they did in like the first two movies, like when they come out, like in the first one after they bust the ghost and after they bust Slimer the first
Hmm.
time, and then all of a sudden they're packed with business, and then in the second one when they come back after they bust the Scoleri brothers, then they have a bunch of business, and they show that would have been really cool for Afterlife, and they didn't, but it was still good.
Well, and that's kind of what I was getting at was with Afterlife, they're introducing these new characters and passing the torch. This movie should be their, okay, the business is booming, and now that they're taking up that mantle as the Ghostbusters.
Well, they're still like super young kids, like the two Celeste O'Connor and Finn Wolfhard. Yeah, I thought Finn Wolfhard did a really good job in there in the last one. Not as good as trying to pick off what was her name.
Well, how young are they? Because I mean,
They
they were
they
high
were in high
school.
Finn Wolfhard, him and Celeste, they were in like high school, but I think they were like maybe sophomores is
Yeah,
what
and
they
that and
were
the
supposed to
movie
be.
came out four or
Logan
5
Kim.
years ago.
Yeah, Logan Kim's coming back. He was funny. He was
Yeah,
like, he was really good as like a Bill Murray. Like, I wish they could bring him up to be like the Bill Murray because he was like the one with the podcast
yeah.
and stuff like that. He was brilliant. But I'm trying to pick out what's her name. I want to say it's maybe I'm not thinking of Carrie. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong person. Maybe I said Carrie Coon again and I was wrong. I can't think of what her name was from Afterlife. Um, but she was like the main focus. Like she was the one that was kind of like sitting there on the spectrum and stuff like that and hanging out. She was like the Egon of their
Hmm.
of their group. But she's super young. So kind of having them like take on the mantle while they're still kind of like still in school and stuff
Yeah.
like that. That was the downfall of making it in like a school age era of stuff.
Yeah.
Like that was the downfall of that one. So I want to see it do well. Like I don't want my franchise, one of my favorite franchises of all time, to be McKenna Grace. Yeah, I think that's who it was. McKenna Grace. I want to say that's her.
Yeah, I have no idea
Yeah,
what her name
McKenna
was.
Grace. That's I believe that's her. But I think it's going to be good for the most part. Will it be as good as Afterlife? Probably not. And the only reason I want to say that is because, like I said, it looks like they're getting away from what really did well in Afterlife. With less is more. We have to make this movie with absolutely as little as possible and still make it good. And that's where movies, and it goes back to what we were saying about the Marvels. They have this
Yeah.
like $200 million budget for what? For what? What are you spending that money on that's worth $200 million? Because obviously that's not it. Five Nights at Freddy's. All right. That movie had a $20 million
20 million.
budget. It made over, I think it's tracking to make over $100 million right now.
Oh, it made over 200 million internationally in its first week.
Okay.
But then it
So,
crashed like 70% the second week.
well, I mean, yeah.
Well, they did the Peacock release as well.
Yeah, and
That's
that was the other
that
thing.
was stupid. That
I
was
mean,
stupid.
Well, almost nobody has Peacock, so
I have
they-
Peacock because of the South Park.
yeah.
113
that's
million.
Paramount. That's
Oh, sorry.
Paramount.
Oh, I had Peacock too. Peacock comes
113
free
million
with
domestic.
Yeah, domestic.
Well,
113. So,
so they sold the streaming rights to Peacock and made the 20 million back immediately that they
yeah,
paid out. So they were playing, zero risk game.
that's
They
it's not bad though. That's like it's a smart
Yeah.
idea, I guess. But I wouldn't like Peacock. Like if you're selling the streaming rights,
You could have bought a month of Peacock for way less than it
Yeah.
costs to take your whole family to see Five
yeah,
Nights at Freddy's.
But also a lot of that is, timing too. Like, I don't know why Hollywood doesn't do more of that PG-13 horror the week before Halloween, because there's that age group with kids who are too old to trick or treat, but not old enough to go out and
I
party yet.
I don't. It's not. You're not
That's a
wrong on
good.
that.
That's free money just to pick up.
You're not wrong on that, but I don't think that that's what would have helped that one. Like, or sorry, not would have helped that one. I don't think that's like Five Nights at Freddy's. I think the big reason is because it's Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, it's
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's
That's
got a
Yeah,
big cult
but
following
there's
behind
yeah.
it.
there's other
That's
there's
why.
other ones out there, Goosebumps or
Yeah, but
whatever.
I think they're gonna be.
Goosebumps is in the middle of a re-airing right now, and it's rather
Yeah.
mid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
But
sucks too
even
because it's like
mid,
the
if it
first
was a
thing you've.
movie that they had put out the week before Halloween, it
True.
would have hit
Yeah, but
that audience.
I would rather like I'm glad it sucks that it wasn't that it was mid because Justin Long is in it for the Goosebumps thing and I
Mhm.
think Justin Long deserves better than that. But
Yeah.
all right.
And everything I personally have not seen Five Nights at Freddy's. I know Mr. Producer saw it, right?
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah, I have not seen it, but I've not heard that it's a great movie.
Right.
They they could have played the horror up even within the PG-13 realms. There was not a lot of horror in
Yeah.
it for being a horror movie,
Yeah,
even a soft horror movie.
and if you didn't play the game, were you
I
even
familiar enough with the characters from just internet culture over the years, but like I went and watched a YouTube series on it afterwards
yeah
to figure out the lore, but
yeah
it from what I picked up from the fans online, it deviated enough from the lore that you didn't need to know the lore to understand
yeah.
it.
All righty. That's it for us for this Galley episode. We'll be at it tomorrow. There will be a fresh podcast of Chef Bolg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything. That one's going to be more strictly on some D&D topics. We'll be heading that up. That should be released probably about 3 or 4 tomorrow, probably closer to 4. We will be back at it next Friday with another Galley episode. I do want to get into we had the Yu Yu Hakusho trailer drop, and I think that's better that we wait for Bolg because I know he's also a big Yu Yu Hakusho fan, but there's also the Avatar trailer for Netflix that just dropped, and I think that's going to be a big one. So if you want to see, hear, or do anything with our thoughts on that one, that'll be next Friday, 8 p.m. for another Galley episode. With that being said, say goodbye, Loke.
See ya.
Say goodbye, Mr. Producer.
Later, guys.